Hola, mi gente. Second episode of my English podcast. And because I'm still introducing myself to you, I wanted to talk to you about one of my inspiration, a man who has given me the courage to be me. He doesn't know it. He doesn't know me. He's my friend on Facebook. When I sent him an invitation about 15 years ago, I think, to, as you used to do on Facebook, to just basically send him an invitation. And he accepted it. I was just over the moon. His name is Glenn Loury. Glenn Loury. Glenn Loury is a professor at the Brown University, economics. And yeah, he has a awesome story. If you want to read an inspiring story, read his biography. The title of it is Late Admission. It's a great, great, great book. A book that if I were a minister of culture or education in any African country, I would basically encourage people, students, to read it because it shows that even when you are Black, um, born in a poor neighborhood, born um, to a mother, out of wedlock, very, very young, living in the basement of her sister. You can become anything that you want to be. You can become a professor. You can go to Harvard. You can go to MIT. Yeah, that's an American story, but I think it's also not only an African American story, but an African story. A story that shows that people um, have the right to be themselves, have the right um, to forge their own path, have the right to think against um, the system, what is popular, have the right to own, own what they feel, own what they believe, own what when they are thinking human beings, own what where um their conviction led them to. So yeah, Glenn Loury, because he's a conservative, I'm not a conservative. I wish I could be, but I'm not. I'm not a conservative for so many reasons, especially in America. The main reason is as a disabled woman who was born in Cameroon, I feel that more is needed, and I feel that sometimes you need help, and that you can't just depend on other people kindness. You can't just depend on individuals. Sometimes you need the government. Sometimes you need the state, the welfare state. So that's one of the reasons I'm not, conservative in the American sense of the word. And Glenn Loury also believe, in the family, in those type of structures that for me, that was many, many wives. And basically, uh, that situation led to an environment where there were, in fact, no family. So it's hard for me to believe in the family. It's hard for me to be a social conservative. Given where I come from, given my background, given I don't want to say my nature, but given my upbringing. So I'm not a social conservative, but I'm a Glenn Loury fan. I think the word that's a euphemism. I love Glenn Loury. Um, the first time I think I saw Glenn Loury was on I think it was the late 90s or the mid 90s. I don't remember. But one of the shows that I used to watch was Charlie Rose on PBS. So I used to watch his show. And I remember I saw Professor Lowry on one of those shows. It was in the 90s, and I was like, oh my God, this guy is just uppity. You know, he was a neocon, and everything he was saying, I felt like, yeah, you know, and yeah, I felt like he was very, very arrogant. And he had I don't know, something. It didn't feel real. I don't want to say authentic because I think that what does authenticity means? What does that mean? But I didn't like, the first time I watched Glenn Loury on Shirley Rose show, I didn't really like, him. But almost 10 years later, it was during the Barack Obama campaign to become president, 2007, 2008. During that time, he was doing a show on Blogging Head, that website. Yeah, and sometimes he had John McWhorter that I like also a lot. I like also a lot. Um, when I wrote, because John McWhorter is a linguist, my first book, L'Empreinte des choses brisées, was published, a French book, a French novel. I wanted to send it to John McWhorter because I couldn't send it to Glenn Loury. Glenn Loury, I'm sure he doesn't, I shouldn't say it's very presumptuous on my part, but I don't think that he, he can read French. So I wanted to send it to John McWhorter. I sent him an email, but he was like, So anyway, but I still like that. I still like John McWhorter, but I love Glenn Loury. I love them. So they had this show. He had a show, the Glenn Show, that you can watch it now on YouTube. He's on YouTube and on Substack. You should subscribe to his show. So they had this, I think it was like once every week. They had a show where they was discussing the Obama against Hillary campaign, and later the Obama against John McCain campaign. And I found myself loving it and agreeing like 99.9% of the time, Glenn Loury. I agreed with him. That moment was a pretty traumatic moment in my American experience. It was a traumatic moment in my American experience because there was an African American was running for president and who was actually winning, and I was supporting Hillary Clinton, and I couldn't get behind Obama. I felt everything Glenn Loury was feeling. I felt that he wasn't the right man at the right moment. I felt that it wasn't going to solve the race issue. I felt that he wasn't ready. I felt that this was a marketing ploy. I felt that the "yes we can" thing didn't mean anything. That it was an empty slogan. I felt that everything that Glenn Loury was feeling, I was feeling. So that's where I started really to love it and to take him seriously and to read him and to basically agree with him on a lot of things. I'm not conservative again. I'm I'm a liberal. Yeah. I think I would have felt very, very much at home in the late 60s in the Democratic Party, in the John Kennedy Party. The Clinton 90s, I don't know. But anyway, yeah. I believe in government and all type of stuff, but Glenn Loury doesn't. And right now, he's a Trumper. My guess, given what I'm sensing, from everything that he's writing, his show, that you can watch clips of on YouTube, the Glenn Show. Yeah, I don't agree. But during that time, we were converging on that point about, and I think that the 2007, 2008 American presidential campaign was very, very difficult for me because I couldn't agree. And I felt that being Black, Obama has a Kenyan dad, so he's, really, really in the true sense of the word, half African, And for Africans, he was African. Africans in Cameroon, they were like, woo, 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 woo. There's going to be an African man in the White House and everything else. And me, I was like, what does that mean? And does it matter? It's everything about identity, politics. Do I have to love Obama? What does it say? What does it say about me that I can't? I'm trying very, very hard, but I can't. I can't. For me, identity doesn't mean anything politically. There's this French writer, he's a researcher that I love. His name is Jean-François Bayard. Jean-François Bayard. He wrote a very, very good book, L'illusion identitaire. I think in English is the cultural identity, the identity illusion or something like that. I will put it right there. And he's against what he calls culturalism. Culturalism. I agree. And he always says we don't have any identity. We have stuff we identify with. We have identifications. And I agree. So one of the reasons why Glenn Loury has taught me a lot about courage, about the need to always not just go for easy solutions, to do the work, to need to do the reading, to need to, not to have to agree and not to feel bad about it. He has this, if you go to his YouTube, he's talking about the fact that he's tired to be the black guy, that he's tired to always have to explain himself, even in 2024, 2025, always, talk about, for other people, even though he is himself, even though he feels that as a people, African Americans are falling behind. I don't disagree with him. I just don't agree with his solutions, but I don't disagree with him. But listening, watching the Glenn show over the years, listening to his conversation with John McWhorter, has given me the courage right now to basically not listen to the noise, not fall for this thing that tells me, there's a lot of pressure to be a certain way when you're a black woman. If you are different, if you say different things, you have to read. If you go on my social media feed, even on this, even on YouTube, if you go to Facebook, you will, if you read French, if you are able to translate, you would see what I mean. People are always judging you, not on what you say, but on who they think you should be. You should shut up. You should not talk about the way that you feel. If you talk about things that has happened to your dad, to you, talking about you being, you're putting basically putting your private stuff in the public domain. You should basically shut up. Family matters should basically remain, behind closed doors. You shouldn't talk about who are you? You should get married or whatever. That's, people always, when it comes to African women, I see that to be, not to have to all the time. It's all encompassing. I know we're very, very different. People, when they see a black woman who happens to be an African woman, they always want her to be a certain way. And if she doesn't, if she's different, if she has her own belief, if she is very assertive, if she's very, very knowledgeable, she becomes dangerous. She becomes angry. She becomes uppity. She becomes everything that nobody wants to be. It's very, very different. Have a different story. If you have a different voice, if you have your own voice, and if you don't believe that your voice, that you should be speaking for everybody, then you become a problem. Then it's very, very difficult, because every time that you speak, there's always some types of blowback or some type of, stupid comment telling you that you're too Western, that you're too American, that you have a left skin, but you are really, really, really white. All those type of stuff that, we should be getting over, beyond, we're in 2025. I think that what happened during the Obama years has shown us that race, it's a very, very important issue. But being black, being African, being African American, think the most important thing is to be you and to have the means to be you and for things more or less to be equal for all of us. I mean, you know, to have a chance to, yeah, speak our own truth, you know? Yeah, as Glenn Loury would say, the ferocity of self-regard. You have to be able to look at yourself and to say, this is what I believe. This is what I'm willing to die for. This is what, you know, this is my truth. And if you read Glenn Loury biography, Late Admissions, he's very, very open. He talks about his struggles with drugs. He talks about his infidelity. He talks about everything. And you can only admire his honesty. You know, he was talking about in his one of his latest podcasts about the fact that he was thinking about retiring because he's of a certain age right now. And I was thinking, man, I hope he doesn't stop his show because the world needs him. I don't think he knows that he has this type of impact to people like me who feel marginalized, who don't belong to a particular space. Am I Cameroonian? Am I African? Am I Belgian? Am I, Spanish? Am I German? Am I American? Where do I belong? People who feel like, they have all of those things inside of themselves, and they who just want to talk about that, and who want to talk about their own story, and who, when they talk about their struggles, uh, the impact that the prejudices of other people have had on their life. When they talk about their personal tragedy, like the one of my dad, and the one, that has happened to me recently. Don't want to hear people just dismissing it out of hand by saying, it's too personal. It's a personal matter. It's a family matter. It's a family feud. It's an African thing. It's a Cameroonian thing. I haven't lived in Cameroon since 1993. And yet when I talk about what has happened to me, what has happened to my dad, people dismiss it by saying, you're the daughter of a rich guy. It's a Cameroonian matter. It's a family matter. It's too personal. And it's banal. It's banal. It's ordinary. This is what happens in Cameroon, in Africa all the time. So there's nothing to see here. So by listening to somebody like Glenn Loury, who for most of his life has had to fight to get where he is, to stay where he is, to be who he is, to say what he has to say. It gives me courage. I disagree with him ferociously on this American moment, on Trump, on wokeness, on so many things. But I'm happy that he is talking. I'm happy that he is as loud, as courageous that he is. And I just wish that he could be read more in the States, and that he wouldn't just be seen as a Black conservative. Because he's an awesome public intellectual. And I think his voice is needed in 2025 in the world more than ever. Anyway, so yeah, Glenn Loury, one of those people whom I've never had the honor of meeting, but who has given me the courage to keep standing for myself, for my story, in spite of the noise, the blowback, the violence of those who want me to shut up. Because what I have to say is not comfortable, it's not nice, and shows that there's something wrong. Even in 2025, in our world, where unspeakable, monstrous things can happen to people who look like me, just because they look like me, and because people feel that they can get away with it, because nobody would care, nobody would talk about it, and nothing would ever be done. So yes, thank you, Glenn Loury. Great, great book, which I encourage anybody, but especially people who have in common Africa to read. Great guy, great book, great show. What he has had an impact which I feel is positive on my life. So thank you, Professor Larry. And I hope that you don't retire too soon, and that I have the opportunity to meet you and to thank you. Second English podcast. See you next Tuesday.